This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight.
Megtooth Sabers requires a lot of work on engineering, drilling, smoothing, tapping, setting, imagining, cutting, stripping, twisting, dipping, tin it, pin it, wire it, fire it, lock it, blast it, swing it, bash it. Megtooth says Sabers.
Hey, greetings Saber fans. Hey, Tom Welter, Mad Snow. What's up? You new to lightsaber crafting? Bought a Graflex hilt, which you'd love to build a Neopixel Prophy 2.2, just don't know what and where to get all the other parts. Well, Mad Snow, I have a lot of videos on my YouTube channel, and it would benefit you if you went on my YouTube channel. And let me straighten out this. Good Lord, that's a mess. Looks like I'm sideways. I have a tutorial section on my YouTube channel there, Mad Snow, and I've got full build videos, and including, there's one full build video. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes, and it's a Kanan Jarrus hilt from Ultra Sabers. And in the links below the video, I shared every part I needed to build that saber with you. And I've also got a blade building video, and I shared all the parts on how to do that. So certainly on my YouTube channel, there's a lot of ways for you to find the way. Yeah, I'm on Wednesday. It was a busy Monday. So Jen's mom's birthday was Monday. So we spent Monday night with Jen's mom. That's why I didn't go live Monday. Plus, I'm still figuring out internet woes. I'm keeping an eye on my my upload speeds here. And so far tonight, you know, it looks like Spectrum's working. Based in the European Union, by the way, Mad Snow. Well, there's a lot of EU builders out there, a lot of EU installers that can help you along. And what's a big benefit for you is www.thesaberarmory.com. And that's an EU-based lightsaber supplies store. It's based in the UK. So I don't know if you're in the UK or not, but certainly, you know, you have options even in the EU. You know, lightsabers aren't just being built or used in the United States. There's actually lightsaber suppliers in Asia, in Australia, in the United States, Canada, Mexico, and UK that I know of. So you don't have to think that you have to stay or buy from United States vendors, because I know it can be expensive with shipping and customs fees and import fees and VAT tax. Now, I still think you have to pay a VAT tax if you're outside the UK when you buy from the Saber Armory, but certainly there's a lot of parts available to you there. But I did provide a lot of links, and you can kind of get an idea of the parts that it takes to build a saber. So, when I last left us, we were building, basically, we took my old test rig, and we put it into a chassis with a battery and a speaker, and I've neatened it up. I've added buttons in here as well. And this is my test board that I was using to build Neopixel blades, which if you've watched my Neopixel blade build videos, this same test board was in those videos. Now, I'm plugging in a Neopixel strip here on my new test board, and I'm going to ignite. And there we go. So the test board definitely looks better in a chassis. It was certainly, I gotta figure out a way to put those Neopixels. The test rig actually turned out way better now that it's inside of a chassis. Now I don't have loose wires. I don't have to worry about resoldering these wires all the time. And the switches I was able to put right here in the aft end of the chassis right here. This is power and auxiliary. And you know, way neater than it was. I can just pop out my battery and recharge it. I've got a strap on there, so you just pop battery back in. And it reboots. And my test board is a Prism 5.5. Now I use these to test Neopixel strips, but another cool thing I wanted to show you guys, you can also test blades with these, blades that you built, to make sure that your blade is working. I see a lot of guys with blade issues, and this is an awesome way to test. So I've got this I've got a Neopixel adapter that I put a male plug on that'll fit inside the female plug on my test rig. And basically, I just drop that adapter down into this 1-inch piece of aluminum. And then I'll plug the adapter into my test rig. And then I can drop a blade inside of my test rig and fire up my blade. Oops, my blade's not working. Why isn't that blade working? Because the Neopixel adapter came out, that's why. Stand by. I didn't have this solidified in. Let's try this again. Oh, the joys of being live. So, and then I'm going to plug it in. I don't understand why that keeps popping out. That didn't make no sense right there. Stand by, y'all. We're going to get this to work out. You should never, there's been a couple posts on the forums lately of guys that are trying to basically hand hold these connectors onto the blade and get their blade to light up. You should never do that. When you do that, if you slip just one little bit, you could short and then you're going to kill your board. So instead of hand holding blades, I use this method with my test board, which we'll get it to work. I just got to secure that blade adapter in there. There it goes. So there we go. So there is my test board lighting up a test blade. So the test board really does come in handy for a lot of different things. If you're building sabers, you know, I have a bunch of these older boards laying around. And yeah, Tom Welter, KR Sabers is www.thesaberarmory.com. That's the one I linked before. He is the only EU supplier that I'm aware of, but there are some in Germany. I can't recall which one's in Germany. I want to say it's Wanawanga, and they sell quite a bit of saber parts, and they're based out of Germany. Of course, it could be in the Netherlands. I'm not really sure where Wanawanga's out of, but I thought it was Germany. But there's certainly EU suppliers out there, the Saber Armory being number one. So that's solidified. And if you guys missed it, there's a live video where we actually built this rig live. You guys can see what I do. You don't have to use a prism. You could use a Prophy. You could use a Nano Biscotti. You could use a Spark. You could use any old board you have laying around that'll run Neopixels, and you can build you a test rig. Pretty simple. It makes life easier for testing Neopixels, for testing Neopixel blades. It's just a great tool to have in the arsenal. And you could build it out of old stuff. So I know that's one thing I wanted to talk about tonight. One of the other things I wanted to talk about was OS 6 is getting ready to drop. Now I want to show you guys something, because Frederick created this new website, and the new website, I'm going to go to Windows Share here, so stand by. And I want to show you this new website that Frederick created. No, not me. It's called The Crucible. And I'll try to put the link down here in the chat bar in just a second. But the website's called The Crucible. And I'll put the link down in the chat bar so you guys know how to find it. Let me paste the link into the chat bar. So this is the new Prophy Board support group that's popped up. Now a lot of people don't understand why Frederick started this this standalone website. And you know, on the TRA we had two fairly large members of the open source group that were banned from the TRA, and we really needed both of their input on the Prophy OS upgrades that are coming. You know, the more people you have, the better. So now, you know, Frederick created this Crucible forum that's just for Prophy Board, nothing else. It's all about Prophy Board, whether that be the Prophy Boards, the Prophy OS, Sabers, sound fonts, props, hacks, build threads, and feedback and anything that's off topic. But there's not a whole lot of extra stuff going on there. And for those of y'all that have been around the Saber community for a while, you may know that these forums can be fickle, to say the least, and political. They get really political. And while the TRA has been a really good resource, and here I am wearing a TRA sweatshirt, the TRA has been a really good resource for Prophy and the Prophy OS and the Prophy OS development. But some rather big members, including Dmitry Stock, were banned from the TRA. And for what it's worth, I mean, Dmitry, if y'all don't watch what he's building and the stuff that he's creating, irregardless of what you think about Dmitry, he certainly has a lot to contribute to the Prophy OS. And I think to ignore Dmitry's contributions to the Saber community would be a mistake. So Dmitry is on the new forum, the Crucible forum, and Fernando's on there, and Brian Connor and Frederick. All the big names are on there that are helping to push OS 6. In fact, I put a request for OS 6 in there this week, one of my wish list requests, which a lot of Prophy Sabers, for those that have built Prophy Sabers, you're always playing a balancing act between the clash and volume thresholds. And I was really hoping that there was a way that we could, delay any clash from being sensed until, maybe 20 or 30 microseconds after an effect wave file ends. Frederick said it wasn't quite that simple, but he did know that he wants to work on the clash and the clash sensitivity, so we're having less problems when we're building Sabers on that. Hey, Maker Channel. And, so OS 6 is really awesome. If y'all haven't seen Fernando's videos, number one, you're going to have wavelength matching. So, before we had to manually adjust the extension and retraction times on the OS. We're not going to have to do that anymore. The OS will measure how long the wave file is, and Dmitry can be abrasive. I mean, he's been abrasive towards me, and some of that deserved, some of it not, but at the same time, I've also received a lot of help from Dmitry and a lot of guidance from him. And, there's no doubt that Dmitry is contributing great things in the lightsaber community. And, some of his personality may get lost in translation. English is not his first language. But Dmitry Stock was banned from the TRA, as well as Ethan Zimmer. And, Ethan Zimmer was... And I know Ethan has his own, sometimes, people don't think too highly of Ethan. But again, Ethan was one of the original people using Teensy Sabers and programming blade styles and using these open source effects and lightsabers. He was one of the first innovators to do that. And I think losing, his input on the OS and losing Dmitry's input was big enough that Frederick thought he needed to find a new place to discuss it, where maybe some members that, couldn't contribute on the TRA could contribute at the Crucible. It's important, as the Prophy OS and the Prophy board develops, that everyone has input, including people that may be abrasive. I kind of view sometimes these forums and Facebook groups as everybody wants to be the judge of who gets banned for what, and canceled. And, everybody, if you don't see what's going on in the world right now where, people just get canceled, I disagree with that. I think everybody should have a right to say what they want and let everyone else judge them for who they are. Canceling them, I don't think is the way to go. I don't want to get into a political discussion, but I think the cancel culture is disgusting. in the United States, and you know, I hate to see that in the saber community as well, and unfortunately I think we have. So the Crucible was kind of started as a way to combat that, and also to have a backup plan. You know, a lot of these saber forums, and not a lot of people use forums anymore because of Facebook. You know, Facebook is that instantaneous gratification where people can log on Facebook and get the answer they want and log off, and they're done. Where on a forum, you typically had to wait for somebody to answer, and the forums aren't visited as frequently. But the forums were really political. You know, FX Sabers was very political. So was TRA. Well, TRA didn't start that way, but it certainly is going that way now. And, you know, we need to keep politics out of open source sabers. The more people that are contributing to open source, the better it is. And hey, I'm still not dropping frames, so we're solid. So let's get on to what's going to be coming in a couple of weeks. So this is one of these little crystal chamber motors here. And I've got it wired up to my power supply, and I want to see if we can see this thing spinning. And let me turn off the backlights. I want to see if we can see this spinning on video. So yeah, it looks like we can see it spinning, and as I increase voltage, it spins faster. And there it is. It goes max 25 RPMs. So what we're going to do with the Prophy OS on this thing is we're going to program this like a blade. And when the lightsaber is off, the chamber can spin slowly. And then when the lightsaber's on, the saber can spin quickly. And then when we increase the voltage on the Prophy, it'll spin faster. But we can make it do weird things, like on a lockup. We can give it high voltage, low voltage, high voltage, low voltage, high voltage, low voltage, so it gets this intermittent spin thing going when the saber's in lockup. And then when the saber's out of lockup, it'll go back to spinning again. So at any rate, this is the little experiment that I'm going to be hooking up to the Prophy. And that is coming hopefully next week. I know I wanted to do it, you know, on this week's live. It just didn't work out. I kind of agree, Enoch Root. You know, Facebook can be tough. I still am kind of old school in that I prefer the forums, but what I didn't like on the forums is, you know, they got real political. And I'm not going to go into a drastic discussion on how the forums are political. If you're on them, you should be able to see it, and if you can't, keep reading. But you know, you have to be in a certain group, you know, to be at the top of the pecking order. But I don't like how, particularly on some of the forums, that, you know, we were seeing high-profile open source people being banned, and it was almost as if it was an effort. I'm not saying that it was, but it appeared it was an effort to single out people that were helping Frederick push the Prophy OS. Which the argument amongst those forums is that no, they weren't. There were reasons and logic behind the bans, and so if there were, there were. But the bottom line is those particular bans, particularly Dmitry Stock, I think, have caused the evolution of the OS to falter when he didn't have direct access on TRA. Because Frederick's just not a Facebook kind of guy. And yeah, every now and then Frederick will pop in on Facebook and answer a question. But for the most part, Frederick prefers to log in on the forums and look at things sequentially. That's just his mind, where Facebook is a jumbled mess. And, you know, Frederick doesn't like that jumbled mess. He's you know, his mind is not a cluttered mind. He's a very organized, methodical mind. So I'm pretty sure that's why he came up with a Crucible. So hopefully y'all all got the link for the Crucible on there. I wanted to make sure everybody had the address for that forum. And, you know, the OS development is still occurring on TRA, and it's still occurring on the Crucible. So it's occurring in both places. So we still have good things happening. Next, I wanted to let everybody know about some things. Stand by. Forgot to grab them. So we'll grab these things, and in case Smooth Jazz Family's on, of course there's the Star Killer that's getting ready to go for sale. The video is done on that. And then these two Vector hilts from Finland, and one's kind of a Sithy. This is Prophy 1 button, and one is kind of Jedi-y, and this is Verso soundboard. Both are Neopixels. So I'm still waiting on the chargers to come in for those, but the blades are built, they're ready to roll, and those 3 sabers will be for sale here shortly on my YouTube channel. Stay tuned. So work's gotten in the way, and Jen's got a broken foot right now, if y'all didn't know that, broken ankle, and between work and we've got to take Ella to school, pick up Ella from school, and get Ella to her functions and band practice, and Jen to her doctor's appointment. So, driving Jen around, because it's her right leg that's broken, so she can't drive. So that's definitely taken up a lot of my time. So I'm sorry, Eric, that I haven't gotten that out a little bit quicker, but life's gotten in the way, and trust me, I've had those sabers built since January, and I've wanted to get them all out on the market, and I certainly need to get them out on the market to recoup my expenses on all 3 of those hilts, and that's pretty much what those hilts are going to be for sale, is just recouping my expenses. So they're all going to be bargains, because Jen's chiming in, Tom's Taxi. Yeah, I mean, my job is bad enough as it is. Jen will tell you. It involves call outs in the middle of the night when I'm not supposed to be working. And, sometimes long hours during the day at work. And then, you add to that Jen can't drive now. And, Jen's got family she has to take care of too. I'm not going to go into that on YouTube, but, we have a lot going on. And a lot of that, that busyness from my work and Jen's broken ankle and our vacation kind of got me a little bit behind on getting those sabers out. But we'll get those sabers out quickly. Yeah, so just be patient, Eric. The saber's going to be awesome. If you end up buying it, I'll load it with whatever fonts you want. You own pretty much everything. So, if you end up buying that saber, we'll put whatever custom fonts you want on it. But those 3 sabers will be coming out. The video is already produced and published. I just haven't made them live yet on YouTube, but they're actually published. I just have to make them public. Jen saying that I love driving Miss Daisy. But, we got a lot of cool things coming on. But anyway, why don't I talk about some of the new OS features. I'm going to close the door. I'm probably bothering Jen. Stand by. She's downstairs watching TV. And I got the door open because I popped on live before I was really ready. Normally I close the door so I'm not bothering them. But at any rate, some of the stuff Fernando's working on is really cool. The new OS is going to fix a lot of things and a lot of gripes that people have had about Prophy. So you get a Prophy saber and you want to upgrade sound fonts. You have to reflash the whole saber. Well, some of the stuff that Fernando's working on, you're going to be able to add fonts without having to reflash the saber. He's got an edit menu that he's been working on. Now, I don't know if SA22C will, Matt McGurry will work his fork and Dimitri will work his fork to have the edit menu in it as well. Oh, hey, Space. And by the way, if nobody saw it, Space Windu built a saber. Oh, Space, let me show you. I need to find those 2020s. I wanted to show Space these things because Space just built a blade. Oh, good Lord. Space just built a blade out of some smaller LEDs, and I wanted to show Space these 2020s if I can find them. I found them. Stand by. 2020s. Okay. So, Space built a Neopixel blade out of the, yeah, you can do that, Space, but the stuff Fernando's working on right now, you're just going to be able to load the new fonts on your SD card and then go into the edit menu, and then you'll be able to add your fonts right on the Saber without having to reprogram the OS, which is pretty cool. I still think it's beneficial. Bye, Jen. I still think it's beneficial to learn how to program a Prophy Saber. But for those that don't want to do that, the new OS modifications that Fernando is working on will allow you to do that. So that's pretty cool. And by the way, Fernando, you know, he stopped his live videos because he's busy working on the new OS, which is pretty cool. So here's the 3535s. These are the Neopixels that I used in most blades. They're you know, 35 millimeters by 35 millimeters wide. These are 2020 space. This is what the 2020 Neopixels look like. I don't know if that's turning out on video or not, but they're crazy, crazy small compared to the 3535s. So the 2020 pixels are 300 pixels per meter. In space, I was gonna build a Neopixel blade out of these to see what they look like, but I almost think you could probably do quad strips with these, but I don't think they use as many amps as the 3535s, but I don't know. Maybe you could do quad blades. I have to look at the data sheet on these and find out, you know, how much juice they use to see what kind of wires we need to use inside a Saber if we're going to try these in quad formation. But you definitely have massive pixel density at 300 pixels per meter. So the ones you built that blade out of were round. Oh yeah, the 2020s are very, very small. And for those of y'all that didn't know, you know, I use those 2020s inside of my Mentor Graflex. And stand by, I'll show you. I have to go get that. I forgot to bring my Mentor Graflex in here. Stand by, because y'all need to see that. I'm back. Stand by. Plus I needed some water too. Okay, so on the Mentor Graflex, let me get this apart so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Yeah, they're sick. So, you know, the funny part was, so the guy that invented this chassis, Cedric Rio, you know, you got these ports in the aft of the chassis, and they're really small, and it's right over the soundboard. So the soundboard's like mounted right in under here, and you have about that much space. But you have these windows. So, let me get to another font here because...
Hello there. An elegant weapon.
There we go.
But a more
So hopefully y'all can
civilized
see
age.
the animation here in these windows here. I'm trying to make sure y'all can see it. In those windows there, and also in the vent. So Rick Rio was only able to get like 2 Neopixels in here behind these windows, and I was able to get, there's actually, let's see, 10, 20, 40. There's actually 40 of those 2020 Neopixels in there, in under those windows, where Rick Rio was only able to get 2. So that's the advantage of these 2020 pixels, is they really, really, really work great and allow you to do some crazy things. And of course, you know, this one has these red accents that blink here, and, you know, 4 crystals, including the crystal generator, and then the Dimitri stock adapter as well. So, I mean, this thing's just loaded with pixels. Finest Saber I've ever built. But that's how those 2020 Neopixels can really help you out in your build. So when I saw, you know, Space Window published a video the other day about these heavy density pixels, and I really was excited to see his video, and I was wondering if he had used those, and I asked him, and he goes, no, he's using more like some SMD small SMD LEDs, but yeah, those 2020s are crazy small. So I think you could probably do a blade out of those 2020s space, and that was kind of one of my intentions, but I think you're paying about 12 bucks for a half a meter. I think it was something like that. It was either 12 or 15 bucks for half a meter. So even to get like a dual strip, you'd go 25, 50 bucks for dual strips. So 100 bucks for quad strips, you know, to build a whole blade. Oh yeah. Yeah, so there's 40 Neopixels in there. That is just sick. You know, he fit 2 in there and I fit 40. And so the fact that I was able to fit 40, then you could get these animations going there, which, you know, all he could do is like have it pulse or whatever. And I was able to actually get a Neopixel animation, you know, backlighting those windows, which was pretty fun to be able to accomplish that in that small space. To me, that was a huge, huge bonus. And again, how I found out about those 2020 Neopixels was from Ethan Zimmer. And Ethan Zimmer published a video where he had used some as accent pixels, and I was like, 2020s? And I looked them up, and sure enough, I found the 2020s and used them in that Mentor Graflex, and just, you know, the thing is freaking phenomenal. It is outstanding. But I've just been really, really proud of that build. It came out really well. So the 2020s were definitely a way to go. Yeah, the Mentor chassis, it's not just the Mentor chassis, it was also the Solos Hold blade holder in brass. So, you know, from here forward, this is all a Solos Hold blade holder. Now, this is all Goth 3D pieces designed for this blade holder. And I'm actually going to order some more accent pieces for this that are in rhodium, because I had these in gold, and I don't like them in gold steel. So I'm going to do these accent pieces on the side in rhodium so they'll stand out a little bit more. And I'm also going to do the battery cover accent piece in rhodium. And I'll build another battery for the Saber with a rhodium accent piece here. It'll just give a little bit more contrast on the chassis. And then, you know, I still haven't even done the weathering on the chassis, but, you know, that Saber was a pretty big project that I'd had in boxes for a couple of months. But it's a Solos Hold deluxe blade holder in brass. And, you know, that was a huge deal too. But definitely wanted to give that a shot. So I did. And, you know, that's one of the finest sabers I've ever built at Graflex. It's awesome. Big shout out to, you know, Darth Rio, Cedric Rio, Rick Rio. You know, his Mentor chassis was pretty much wild. And of course, as soon as I built that, he came out with his Master chassis, which is a step up from that, which has the spinning crystal chamber in it, which is why I'm going to do the spinning crystal chamber motor videos, so we can see how that motor reacts when I program it as a blade on the Prophy. And if that works out, then I'll share the blade style that I use to program that motor with. And, you know, everyone will have a way to drive their motors off Prophy. Rather, I mean, you can just hook your motor up on power, and when the Saber's turned on, the motor's on and it's running, but it's always just going to be spinning at that same rate. And to me, the advantage of hooking it up as a blade is when I go to idle off time, when I program idle off time in my configuration, then that motor will turn off to save the batteries. If you wire it direct to power, it won't do that. So you lose standby and battery time if you wire it direct to power. Oh yeah, Enoch Root. It is agony. You know, I if there were some things I could change on mine, I would. Basically, I probably would have done this piece that joins with the blade holder in brass, as well as this piece that holds the first base of the crystal. I did the whole crystal chamber in rhodium, but if I had it to do all over again, the smaller back piece, I would have done that in brass and not rhodium, because it kind of looks out of place that it's rhodium. But, you know, it still works. I mean, this is a beautiful lightsaber. It is incredible. Now, also, when I got the Mentor, he didn't have the bass speaker option. So this Mentor is actually running the TCSS Premium speaker, which is the you know, the flat speaker, but it still sounds great. And, you know, I even added the copper mesh on the speaker grill here. So, yeah, you know, I struggled with metal choices too. And, you know, you kind of have to envision what it's going to look like. But, you know, I really, once I figured out how it all went together, I actually really enjoyed building that Mentor Graflex, and it fits inside the Graflex shop, TGS Graflex, perfectly. And you know, now I have my A New Hope Graflex, and that thing's awesome. The 2020 Neopixels were actually an afterthought, so I basically already had the Saber built. I saw Ethan's video, and I was like, wow, I wonder if I'd be able to fit more of those instead of just the 2 Neopixels under those windows, which weren't going to do much. And I wanted more kind of showing through those windows, and I ordered those 2020s, and sure enough, they all fit, and I was surprised at how many fit. And you know, again, there's 40 Neopixels in under those windows, so it's awesome. That certainly opened up the world. Now, one other thing I'll say, Enoch Root, is I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but there's also an option to add these 2 blue LEDs here. I'll try to get it on video where you can see them. I don't know if you can see them, but they're not lighting up the crystal. They're lighting up the crystal chamber. It's kind of hard to see them. Trying to get it in there where you can see them. You can see those 2 blue LEDs. They're lighting up at a different tempo than the crystals. And what those blue LEDs do is they actually light up the chamber. And I definitely would add those because I think that it really beautifies the crystal chamber, how it lights up the crystal chamber as well. And all I can tell you is video does this no justice, because this thing, every time I turn it on, I'm still like, oh my God, I can't believe I built this. But it's definitely incredible. Evan, I'm still not currently taking commissions until I get all these other Sabers moved out. I've got these 3 Sabers to ship out, and I have another one that's going to Fayetteville, North Carolina, and then I have 3 that are going to Hong Kong. And once I get all those Sabers shipped out, yes, I will be taking commissions, but I believe my April spot is already filled up. And that's going to be, yeah, I want more. That's going to, my April slot's already filled up with one of my YouTube subscribers. He called dibs on April. So, yes, I will be doing commissions this year, but right now I'm not accepting any. You have an MR Mace window that you want converted to Neopixels. You know, the Custom Saber Shop does make a Mace window hilt adapter. I'm just wondering what chassis solution we'd use on that one. I've never done a Mace window. I've done a lot of MR conversions. I've done an MPP, Graflexes. I've done a bunch of them. And, of course, the Kylo Ren, the Black Series by Hasbro. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've done master replica conversions. There's a couple of videos on my YouTube channel of some of the master replica conversions that I've done. Again, sometimes I think you'd be better off buying a blank hilt, like, you know, from 89 Sabers, for instance. I mean, this isn't a master replicas. It's better. This is a, you know, the Graflex shops. Let me put it all kind of back together so you guys can see it. But this is the Graflex shops replica Graflex, and this is what that Mentor chassis goes into. And it's a beautiful piece of work. This is a lot better than the MR Graflexes. So if you were to buy the Master Replicas Graflex, you know, it doesn't have the real bunny ears. The red button doesn't function. It's a plastic piece, and this is plastic, whereas on this one it's metal with glass in there. You actually have the glass eye, which illuminates. This is just a better replica. Not only that, it has the appropriately stamped back end, and it has the Graflex stamping on the clamp, which was on A New Hope for sure. But you know, this, if you're wanting to build a lightsaber that's a little bit more true to how the movies were, I don't think you can go wrong with one of these versus the Master Replicas. But I have done master replica conversions. But yeah, Enoch Group, good luck on picking your metal on that chassis. But what I wanted to talk about, and I keep interrupting myself or keep getting distracted by, the comments, is OS 6, some of the new features that are coming. Some of the new features that are coming, we've talked about the wavelength, so it's automatically going to sense the wavelength on retraction and extension, and it'll do the extension time and retraction time to match the wavelengths. You have the ability to edit colors, edit sound fonts, edit music, that's your background tracks that are playing, your blade styles. You'll have the ability to edit blade styles, volume. There's a couple of other things on there. Oh yeah, your blade length. Like if you put a blade in there and your blade length wasn't programmed long enough and your blade doesn't illuminate all the way, you'll be able to adjust the blade length in this edit mode without having to reprogram the saber. So the edit mode that Fernando's been working on for the better part of 2 months now, which is why he stopped his live videos on Tuesdays, is going to basically, I think that's really the last little tidbit needed to push the Prophy OS to be where it's a little bit more user friendly. A lot of guys right now are buying all these LGT Sabers with Prophy boards in them, and the Facebook forums are flooded with, how do I put new fonts on it? How do I put new fonts on my saber? And, right now, aside from just putting the new fonts in the existing SD folders, that's, the only workaround you can do without reprogramming the lightsaber. But to me, if I get a Prophy saber, I can add new fonts fairly easily. But some people want to get ridiculous and have like 50 fonts on there, and I don't know. I find myself operating my sabers in one or two of the fonts. Like on my New Hope Graflex, my favorite sound font on this Graflex is Jesse Kirkbride's or Kyberphonics A New Hope Training. And that's the one I run on this saber the most. And, yeah, I've got other sound fonts on here, but A New Hope Training is pretty much what I do. Oh yeah, so Avise, so the 5.9. So the 5.9 has some bug fixes in it. If y'all didn't see, Frederick updated the OS to 5.9. So that's not a major upgrade. He's just doing some bug fixes. So if y'all noticed, anybody that's been running Matt McGurry's prop file, a lot of times when you click the auxiliary button to advance to the next font, sometimes the saber would ignite. Basically, you were getting a swing trigger, and there was a motion chip timeout, and that was causing a swing to trigger, so you were getting an accidental swing on activation. Yeah, Space Me, once you learn how to do it, it's relatively quick. But, for people that are new to sabers and going out and buying an LGT saber and wanting to tackle that, and they go out and buy all these sound fonts, and they're like, well, I want to add all these sound fonts to my saber, and it's not quite that simple right now on Prophy, but it's getting ready to be. So, there's some really cool things coming up with OS 6. Now, the thing that's scaring me right now, which I was kind of mad at Frederick a little bit, because he, advertised that he's developing, Prophy 3. And you had, guys like Cal at KR Sabers, he had just ordered a big, huge shipment of Prophy 2.2s, and everybody's like, well, I'm going to wait till Prophy 3 comes out. And then Cal was holding on to all this inventory, and now everybody's afraid to order more, Prophy 2.2s because Prophy 3 is coming out. And, now Prophys are going to be hard to get hold of again. Where Electronics 123 and KR Sabers were producing a lot of Prophys. So, Prophys weren't like teensy sabers where it was impossible to get hold of them. You could buy Prophys on Walmart.com and Amazon. And but as soon as Frederick said, hey, I'm working on a new version of the Prophy, now I think a lot of those businesses are going to be reluctant to churn out big runs of Prophys because, they're concerned that customers won't buy them because customers will want the version 3s. But, I still have, I'm trying to pull one out. So the Prophy 1.5s like this one, I mean, they're still valid, relevant. They do everything that a Prophy 2.2 can do. There's nothing wrong with a Prophy 1.5 if you can still find them, especially from Frederick's initial run. And Teensy Sabers, I mean, I still have some Teensy Sabers on hand that I can put into Sabers. And Teensy Sabers run the new OS just as well with Neopixel effects and smooth swing and motion gestures and all that. I mean, Teensy Sabers running OS 5.7. Matter of fact, I've got one of my Graflexes, the TFA Graflex, which it's running OS 5.7 with Teensy Saber. Yeah. Yep. Well, I still have several 2.2s in stock. I'm not going to say how many. But I ordered a ton of them when Cal did his first run, and then I ordered a bunch from Electronics 1, 2, and 3 a few months ago. So I think I should have enough to get by until V3 comes out, I hope. And if not, then, you know, whatever. Then I'll just order some Versos, because actually, for those of y'all that haven't seen the Versos now with the beta software, can do color changing. You can have unlimited fonts, and you can do blade effects, including I actually got localized lockup. Well, Cole, it's okay that you're in late, but it was just talking about you a minute ago. Somebody asked me if I was taking commissions, and I'm like, well, not really. I got to get all these Sabers shipped out, and then, you know, Cole's probably got something coming to me in April. So, and I owe you one, Cole, so I certainly haven't forgot about you. We didn't really talk about too much tonight, Cole. But I did preview some of what I've got coming in the coming weeks. And, you know, I'm sorry that my streams have been laggy. You know, my last 2 or 3 streams were really laggy when I went and looked at them, and I was just disappointed. It's my internet, my home internet by Spectrum. I hate Spectrum. Yeah. Yeah, he's developing. Battle mode is awesome, Cole. I wouldn't install a Saber without battle mode right now. He's already Enoch Root, he's already published what he's going to do with Prophy 3, including pictures of it. And basically, it's not that much different than Prophy 2.2, except he's added a couple more data lines and bigger pads and simplified some things, and allowed for remote USB soldering. He's given you some points to solder remote USBs in, so that you can run a remote USB out to your chassis to program the Prophy. But other than that, it's basically still the same thing. He's added a new interface, so hopefully he can power down the SD to get true deep sleep. Right now the Prophys have really good standby time. Without a kill key, you can get a month and a half, 2 months out of them on a full charge battery before they die. But he's hoping for, more Plector-like deep sleep, where you can, set the Saber on the shelf and, 6 months later pick it up and you're still on a full battery. And the only way you can do that is by killing the SD card, but there was an engineering defect that wouldn't allow that on Prophy 1.5. He thought he had that fixed on Prophy 2.2, but he did not. So he was never able to fully implement deep sleep on Prophy 2.2 or 1.5. And right now he's testing whether or not his solution on the V3 works. He's already got one V3 test board from KR, and it didn't work. So he's going back and testing that right now. I haven't read the thread, but certainly that is on the Crucible. So I want to go back to show everyone the Crucible again, and I put the link in the comments. But the Crucible is a new Saber forum for Prophy discussions, and I'm gonna type the link in here. So make sure y'all go check out the Crucible if you're interested in the Prophy OS. The Crucible is going to be a cool place. So let's go to Prophy boards. I'll show you the Prophy Board V3. I mean, he's got pictures of it on here. So just stand by and I'll show you a picture of the Prophy V3. So here it is. This is the Prophy Board V3 that's coming. Basically, he's running a different and better processor. And, you can see the FETs are all still the same. But it's got a better amplifier. I'll tell you about some of the features it has. See what I'm pretty sure he talked about the features up here somewhere. So what's new about the Prophy V3? It's using a new CPU. It runs at the same speed and mostly the same as the old CPU, but has a few important differences: more RAM, flash, and pins. So, those of us who run out of flash room, this chip's got more flash. It's got more flash, 512 kilobytes instead of 256 that are on Prophy 2.2. Means you can have more presets. It's got more RAM, 160 kilobytes instead of 64. It makes MP3 and echo effects possible, which that's stuff he wants to do in the future. It's got more pins. New CPU is BGA with 64 pins instead of 48. More data pins and other things. It's got faster SD card access. The new board uses SPIO instead of SPI to access the SD card. SPIO is significantly faster than SPI. So for those of you that were trying to program your sound fonts through the USB port, it was painfully slow. So now it's going to have a lot faster capability there. USB charging. So you can do onboard USB charging. That's pretty cool on the Prophy. It's got an onboard status LED to show what the board is doing when something goes wrong. And there's 3 new free pads that can be used to drive LEDs or Neopixel data pads or buttons. He moved the SWIO, SWD clock and reset pads internally. It's got like I said, the onboard pads for adding an external USB, a spot for an additional large capacitor if needed when driving Bluetooth modules. 2 CPU pins are already tied together for data 1, making Blade ID work without additional components. Power and aux buttons are wake up capable, unlocking the possibility of a deep sleep mode. Several other pins have been tied together as well, giving each pin more function. This unlocks additional serial ports and analog pins and blah, blah, blah. So that's all the stuff that's coming on the new Prophy board on the Prophy V3. So it's pretty exciting stuff. And, pretty cool stuff coming on Prophy V3. But we've been on for almost an hour and successfully tonight. We didn't have a failure and I'm not dropping frames. I've got 2640 kilobits per second uploads, so that's pretty good. And for once I'm happy that the video is working, and that's awesome. And when I leave y'all tonight, I'm going to be building a Neopixel blade. And once I get this Neopixel blade built and hopefully get some chargers from the custom saber shop, we'll have 3 sabers going on the market real quickly after that. And once I get those sabers sold, I'll be taking a commission for Cole. And I also have 3 other sabers shipped to Hong Kong on top of those 3 sabers. So got a lot going on. But hopefully next week I will have the test board done for the crystal chamber motor, which I demonstrated tonight for those of y'all that were here to see that. I've got these crystal chamber motors ready to roll. This is how small these things are. They're very, very tiny, but this is a crystal chamber motor, and hopefully next week we'll have that thing wired up to show y'all how it's working on Prophy OS, programmed as a blade. And if we can get that to work, I'll share the blade style. And you heard it here first, because I'm not sure a lot of people have done that yet. And if they did, they certainly didn't share how they did it. So I want to make sure that that's out there for folks that are building sabers with these turning crystal chambers in them. But at any rate, I was glad that tonight's live worked out good, because certainly my internet hasn't been very helpful. I'm telling you, as soon as SpaceX gets the rest of these Starlink satellites up there and North Carolina gets Starlink coverage, I'm leaving Spectrum forever. I hate cable companies. I hate their internet. Their customer service is horrible. They're all about money. They nickel and dime you to death. And, you know, I'm willing to pay for more solid internet coverage, even if that means I have outages due to huge clouds. And we're fixing to get a big storm here tonight in North Carolina. It was like summertime here today. You know, it was like 80 degrees. And then tomorrow it's supposed to be like 33 when I wake up. So the temperature is going to drop 50 degrees tonight. So, you know, that means we're in for some bad weather tonight. That's like tornado weather. So, not going to be a fun night here in North Carolina on the coast. So y'all keep your fingers crossed. And yeah, I need to get rid of Spectrum. Spectrum needs to go. I'm so ready for Starlink, it's not even funny. You know, when you have lower latency via satellite than you do at home, that's a problem. How can they not get better latency speeds on, you know, a hard wire that's on the ground than I can do conversing with a satellite in outer space? And to me, that's nuts. And we're talking a 20 millisecond latency to the satellite with Starlink versus I think it's 60 millisecond latency on Spectrum hardwire on the ground. So that's crazy. Yeah, Spectrum's horrible. Yeah, you know, this one I got the 25 RPMs and it's a little slow. I'm glad that I saw you say that they make higher RPM motors. Don't get the 400 RPM one. You know, I'm thinking I want a higher RPM motor than the 25 revolutions per minute. Because I need something where I can definitely give you a visual change in speed. And how you reduce speed on those is reduce voltage. And I've already tested that on my bench supply, and I already know that works. As I apply more voltage, the speed increases. As I reduce voltage, the speed decreases. So maybe I need to order some more of these motors, but for right now I got these 25 RPM motors, and you know, I'll get them wired up and the theory will work. I already know the theory is going to work because it worked on my bench power supply. Maker channel, I'm looking forward to seeing that. That's awesome. Yeah, 400 RPM kyber crystal would look crazy. Not to mention, I think you'd, you know, tear apart those plastic gears that come with the kits. Definitely needed water. I was having a drinking problem there, dribbling all down my chin. But my primary glasses broke. That's another thing that's been holding me up. Is you know, my primary glasses, I'm old, you know, I'm coming up on 50, so I have, you know, bifocals, no line bifocals, and the only backup glasses I have don't have bifocals on them. So now, like when I'm soldering, I'm having to lift my glasses on my head and squint my eyes, as I can't see, so I need my bifocals back. So y'all can laugh about that. 100 to 250 RPM. I'll look into that, just watching. I appreciate that tip because I didn't even know. I didn't even know they made them in different RPMs. So that's very good information. I appreciate that. And I'll go try to find and order some more of these motors, maybe with higher speed. Because what I'm trying to do, I really need it spinning at higher than 25 RPMs. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's out there. But well, just watching, you can post builds on, there's several Facebook groups, the Vault, the Prophy Board support group, open source forums, and then you can also post your builds on the Rebel Armory and the Crucible that I showed y'all tonight. On this page, there's actually a place on the Crucible for builds. If it's going to be on the Crucible, it needs to be a Prophy build. But there's a lot of places to post your builds. So, and if y'all haven't noticed, I post a lot of my builds on YouTube. So, you know, I've got multiple full install vids out there now. I think I've got 3 full install vids on Prophy, 1 on Verso, and hopefully, you know, I'll be doing some more different soundboards now, like Golden Harvest. Golden Harvest boards are now available. I'm going to try to get one of those and install one of those as well. So, you know, there's great things on the horizon. So if the Prophy V3 holds up production on new Prophy 2.2 runs, then I may have to install some Versos in Golden Harvest until the Prophy V3 comes out. But I'm hoping y'all all check out the Crucible. Register on there if you're interested in the Prophy and the Prophy OS. And you'll get to watch all the updates coming on the new board and the new OS live as they happen, either on the Rebel Armory or on the Crucible. And I'm sure there'll be some stuff on Facebook, but most of the cutting edge stuff happens on the forums. So if you're not registered on either the Rebel Armory or the Crucible, then oh yeah. Well, I've actually, you know, a hand tool build is definitely awesome. So you're building totally from scratch, like from pipes and stuff. You know, one of my sabers over there, which was one of my first, I built from a sink pipe, and I definitely used hand tools. I actually got a metal blade that I put in my chop saw to cut metal with, and you know, that's scary, cutting metal with that big metal cutting blade and watching metal melt. It's dangerous. Every time I go to cut metal, I'm like, danger, Will Robinson, danger. Like when I was cutting the Darth Nihilus grips on that thing with the metal blade, that was insane. So yeah, I use hand tools in a lot of my builds. I don't have a lathe or a mill. You know, if I'm making parts, they have to be made by hand. And here, I'll show you some things on that Nihilus hilt. And then we got to get signed off, because I got things to do. I got to be at work tomorrow morning. So this is my Dark Nihilus hilt. So this is MHS, but these shrouds, each one of these is an individual piece and it's hand cut. And you can see I had to attach it with, you know, with screws. Each of the pieces. That's why there's screws down the spine and then down the belly. But that was all hand cut. And then this was a pipe that fit over the MHS shroud. And I actually cut this pipe with the saw, but then I hand filed it so that it blended more evenly into the hilt, so it didn't look so boxy. And the same with this piece here too, which contains my switches. My switches are in that piece there. But yeah, all this was hand built, hand filed, hand cut. So I can appreciate hand building sabers. This one was hand built. So look forward to seeing that. Just watching. Takes a lot of patience to hand build one of these sabers and to get them, you know, coming out like you want them. You know, I'm still pretty proud of that build. It's a humongous hilt, but it is awesome looking hilt. It's a scary looking hilt, you know. And Darth Nihilus was a big dude, so there you go. I don't remember if I programmed this with battle mode or not. Oh, I did. I did program that with battle mode, so that's pretty awesome. But at any rate, lots of cool stuff happening. So thank you guys and girls for tuning in, and Jen was on anyway, and hopefully we got some more cool stuff coming next week with the crystal chamber motor. At least I'll know if that works in theory. If it does, then I'll publish the blade style so everyone will have that. So if you want to run a crystal chamber motor on Prophy, I'll teach you how to run them off the blade and the blade style that'll work for them. And that'll be pretty cool. So we'll have another geeky moment there. And don't forget, you can watch one of my last streams, and that's where we built this test rig. And you can order the stuff to build these test rigs at the Custom Saber Shop. You need an 18650 keystone holder, an MHS V6 chassis, a 28mm speaker, soundboard that'll do Neopixels, 2 buttons, and you know, a female plug that's off the leftover from Neopixels. And you can build one of these test boards really simply, just like that. And we built it together on one of my last live streams, so you can go check that out. I'll make sure I put that live stream on the tutorial section. I don't think I've tagged it in the tutorial section yet, but I'll retitle it Building a Test Rig and put it in the tutorial section. But thank you all for watching, and hopefully next week we'll have the crystal chamber motor video and all my crazy test rig going for that. And if that works, I will publish the blade style that it's running, including how I coded the bottom of the config, and that should be good. So thanks everybody for watching. Build some sabers, make some cool stuff, publish your builds on the internet so we all can see it, and the more people making their own sabers, the better. And I really appreciate you guys tuning in every night. I'm glad it worked. I think these things help me retain some sanity with my job, and I enjoy talking to y'all about lightsabers. It gives me some nice perspective to talk with some other people that share my same interests. So it was fun being on with y'all tonight. Hopefully we'll see y'all next Monday. Same bat time, same bat channel. And we'll see y'all next week.
Thank you everybody for watching as usual. I really appreciate y'all tuning in on my channel. And as always,